So I saw this interview on Anthony Joshua, and I think there were some really interesting observations. So let's try and bring some understanding and additional context. And we're going to unpack 8 statements. So statement number 1, the I want it all mantra. AJ repeats, I want it all. I want Fury. Now, the Tyson Fury fight, it's important. The Tyson Fury fight is important to boxing. It's important to British boxing, and it's important to AJ. That's good. But he has to stay present on the current challenge. So he can't let the compulsion or the obsession on Tyson Fury to get in the way of the assignment in front of him. So it's important that this obsession with victory, this obsession with the Tyson Fury narrative doesn't become a negative thing. And then the second statement is about the Prenga blind spot. Eddie Hearn, his promoter, admits he compares Prenga with 21 wins and 20 KOs to Bacoli level danger, then calls him the last banana skin. In boxing circles, and I could be wrong here, I think Bacoli is seen as more dangerous. However, at the very least, what can we say about Prenga? Well, his record indicates that he has punching power, and his statements indicate that he has a level of confidence. It'll be interesting to see when he takes the first jab and when he takes the backhand. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to maintain that confidence, and it'll be interesting to see how Prenga reacts under pressure, because one thing he's not an experienced fighter. He hasn't operated on this level before, but he does present a danger, but I don't think it's a Bacoli level type danger. And then the third statement is the Usyk math confession. And AJ breaks down his own loss into 4 quarters. He states that he, referring to Usyk, beat me on the last 100 meters. Of course, this is figuratively. He's a 9-round fighter, not a 12-round fighter. So this is like self-reflection. He's defining himself as a 9-round fighter and Usyk as a 12-round fighter. So my question here is that if you've seen yourself as a 9th-round fighter, what amendments are you making to make the difference? Are you correcting these details in the gym? And how do you correct these details in the gym? How do you improve the boxing engine? How do you improve the stamina? Because if being a 9-round fighter is going to be a problem and you're not doing anything to amend it, then that in itself is a problem. So I'm assuming in camp, Anthony Joshua is learning how to be a 12-round fighter. Now, to give some context, and I'm assuming he's referring mainly to the rematch, Usyk went to another level in the rematch. So I think AJ's being quite critical on himself. He did give a great performance in that rematch, but Usyk he transcended. He went to the matrix level. And the fourth statement, again, is referring to the 12-round narrative, is that AJ says he's not a 12-round fighter. And that's a very revealing line. He's diagnosing his own championship level flaw. And again, the question continues, can you fix this stamina issue? Do you spar more rounds? Do you do more running? Do you learn how to pace yourself more? I think it's really important that it's one thing to understand the problem, but it's another thing to input an effective solution. And is he putting that solution out there? And also the Usyk environment, and I'm assuming he's still in the Usyk environment, as Usyk is a fighter that's known for having elite conditioning and elite stamina. Is he taking something from Usyk's environment that is enabling him to build his own stamina? And that's going to be essential because, with the Tyson Fury fight, assuming he gets through Prenga, that could be a long fight. And if AJ only has 9 rounds in him, that could be to his detriment. So the fifth statement, is the spiritual gap. And he like presents this framework, and the framework goes like this: physical, mental, spiritual. And he says that Usyk and Fury both, they pull away late because of the prayer and the discipline. So in a sense, it's like he's crediting faith for the superior conditioning. This is an interesting point. What is spiritual and why is it important? You can look at fighters like Evander Holyfield, someone who has a very strong faith, and you can kind of see that his faith helps his performance. It helps his preparation. It helps his mindset. And if you see a relationship between spirituality, prayer, and purpose, then maybe spirituality can fill those gaps of uncertainty. So I think that when you take the equation of prayer and discipline, that can be a very effective solution. And again, it's understanding the premise of boxing, that boxing is physical, but boxing is also psychological. A good reference to that is looking at Mike Tyson's fights, where in a large majority of his fights, he would intimidate his opponents, and then he would utilize that to his advantage. And obviously intimidation, again, you've got this relationship between intimidation and the psychological element. And then the sixth statement is about training alongside Usyk, a modern day great. I'm assuming he's not copying the southpaw style, but again, he's absorbing that spirituality, he's absorbing that work ethic and prayer. And can you borrow a rival's mentality without borrowing his system? And I guess if the system is effective, then why not borrow it? Again, as we've stated, boxing is psychological, so prayer can be helpful. But at the same time, and this is a very important point, you need to balance the spirituality. You need to balance the spirituality with the viciousness, because boxing is science. And when I use the word science, I mean it in a figurative way, but there's also a vicious element to it. So in applying the prayer and applying the discipline, it's important that he doesn't take away that viciousness that is a part of AJ's identity. And then statement 7, we have the breakdown that wasn't. And this is very weird because AJ kind of catches himself. He goes, I had a breakdown, but let's not call it a breakdown. And I think it's important to recognize here that, and when we're talking about loss and dealing with stuff, we're talking mainly within the boxing context. And it's important to realize that when we talk about loss in life, we lose friends, in life, we lose faith, we lose hope at times. And of course, if you engage in boxing or elite sports, you will lose matches, you will lose a boxing match. And this kind of goes back to a great film called Enter the Dragon, one of films done by Bruce Lee, phenomenal film. And there's a scene in that film where it talks about, it's not how you deal with victory, it's how you manage defeat. And maybe that second fight with Usyk, it appeared that fight had a lot of that caused AJ a lot of psychological distress, which then leads to the question, how is AJ managing his psychology? How is AJ building his confidence? And perhaps he's building it with the discipline and the prayer. Perhaps the optimal boxing environment that he's inherited by being with Usyk, perhaps that's the answer. And then we have the discipline over motivation. And apparently AJ is living in a single bed, and this is evidence of the proof of work. And sometimes it's funny, isn't it? Because sometimes you don't know what's authentic humility and what is narrative management. So is this story real, or is it just a story to create this narrative? If the story is real, then it shows psychologically where AJ is at. And I think that AJ is projecting that he's very serious about this comeback. He's very serious about winning. So here is my final statement. Think of this. Anthony Joshua's interviews reveal something deeper than tactics or technique. They reveal self-awareness. He is openly identifying flaws in stamina, psychology, discipline, and purpose, while searching for the formula that can help take him back to the top. That honesty is both his greatest strength and his greatest risk. Recognition alone changes nothing unless it produces action. The next chapter of Joshua's career will not be defined by what he says in interviews, but by whether those insights become visible when the bell rings. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community, and that means I'm interested in your thoughts, I'm interested in your perspectives, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, press like, hype, and subscribe. And if you want to watch more content like this, then simply click here or click here. As always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated.